The tragic death of 28-year-old Katie Donnell is yet another devastating example of how unregulated energy drink consumption can lead to fatal consequences. A young woman in peak physical condition, dedicated to fitness and health, should not have suffered a heart attack that ultimately resulted in brain damage and death. Yet, here we are, faced with another preventable loss, another grieving family, and another warning that will likely go ignored by corporations and regulators alike. Energy drinks, marketed as harmless pick-me-ups, continue to be widely available, aggressively promoted, and irresponsibly consumed without enough awareness of the real dangers they pose. Donnell's case is particularly alarming because she did everything right in terms of health and fitness. She exercised regularly, maintained a clean diet, and avoided unhealthy lifestyle habits. But one thing she did not avoid was caffeine, consuming multiple energy drinks a day, along with coffee and caffeine supplements to fuel her workouts. Her body became dependent on the artificial stimulation, and like so many others, she likely never thought twice about the risks. This habitual consumption of high doses of caffeine put her heart under immense strain, setting the stage for disaster. When her heart finally gave out in August 2021, her friends initially thought she was having a stroke. The reality was much worse, a massive heart attack at just 28 years old. Paramedics were unable to intubate her in time, depriving her brain of oxygen for too long, leading to irreversible brain damage. After 10 days in a medically induced coma, her family was forced to make the unbearable decision to take her off life support. What makes this tragedy even more unsettling is how common this behavior has become. The widespread, casual use of energy drinks, especially among young adults, has created a silent epidemic of caffeine overconsumption. Most people assume that if a product is sold in every grocery store and gas station, it must be safe. But energy drinks are far from harmless. They contain dangerously high levels of caffeine, often combined with other stimulants, artificial additives, and sugar, creating a cocktail that can overstimulate the nervous system, raise blood pressure, and trigger fatal heart arrhythmias. According to the National Library of Medicine, caffeine's ability to raise blood pressure puts extreme stress on the cardiovascular system, significantly increasing the risk of sudden cardiac events. Yet, despite mounting evidence of these risks, energy drinks remain on the shelves, unregulated and unchecked. Donnell's mother, Lori Barnon, only realized the extent of her daughter's energy drink consumption after her death. She found cans scattered throughout her car and learned from friends that Katie was rarely seen without an energy drink in hand. Like many others, she had become reliant on the buzz to get through long days of work, school, and exercise. This normalization of extreme caffeine consumption is deeply concerning. People assume that as long as they stay within the so-called safe daily limit of 400 milligrams of caffeine set by the Mayo Clinic, they are in no danger. But this number is a broad estimate and does not account for individual tolerance levels, underlying health conditions, or the compounded effects of mixing multiple caffeine sources. Energy drinks often contain far more caffeine than the average cup of coffee, with some brands packing up to 200 milligrams per can. Consuming 2 or 3 in a day, along with coffee and supplements, can easily push a person well beyond safe limits, particularly if their body is already under physical stress from exercise. Another disturbing aspect of this case is how difficult it was for doctors to believe that a healthy 28-year-old could suffer a fatal heart attack. Their initial assumption was that she had been drugged because, in their experience, people that young simply don't drop dead from cardiac arrest. But the reality is that energy drinks have been linked to countless similar cases. Young athletes, students, and professionals have all suffered heart complications, seizures, and even death due to excessive caffeine intake. These cases rarely make headlines, and when they do, they are quickly forgotten. The energy drink industry continues to profit from aggressive marketing, often targeting young people who are unaware of the risks. Brands sponsor extreme sports, video gaming tournaments, and music festivals, embedding themselves in youth culture and reinforcing the idea that these drinks are safe and even beneficial. The truth, however, is far more sinister. The U.S. has seen an alarming increase in emergency room visits related to energy drink consumption, yet there are still no meaningful regulations in place to limit their availability. Some countries, like Lithuania and Latvia, have outright banned the sale of energy drinks to minors. Meanwhile, in the U.S., They sit on store shelves next to bottled water and soda, available to anyone willing to buy them. There is no standardized warning label, no age restrictions, and no public awareness campaign to educate consumers about the real dangers. Even as lawsuits emerge, such as the case against Panera Bread, where a family is suing over the death of their daughter linked to a highly caffeinated beverage, there is little indication that change is on the horizon. Bar none, now living with the unimaginable pain of losing her daughter, is speaking out to warn others. She calls energy drinks harmful and deadly and is urging parents to monitor their children's caffeine consumption before it's too late. Her plea should not be ignored. Too many families have already suffered, too many young lives have been cut short, and yet the cycle continues. If nothing changes, more tragedies like this are inevitable. The industry thrives on misinformation and consumer ignorance, while regulators turn a blind eye. Katie Donnell's death should serve as a wake-up call. Energy drinks are not harmless. They are not just another beverage choice. They are stimulants with potentially lethal consequences, and until serious regulations are put in place, we will continue to see more lives lost to this completely preventable crisis. The question is, how many more people have to die before the risks are taken seriously?